Welcome back everyone. Let's continue today with some new pages and let's actually tie in our database with the data we are getting on the front end. So first of all, I want to start with some new endpoints. I want to have an endpoint in here, which is going to be a GET request. And in here, we're going to ask for an ID for the app that we want to show. Basically, this is going to be used for the app details page. So we're going to call the apps controller and we are going to call the show function. Then I want to create a couple more endpoints. Okay, let's just delete these ones. One of them is going to be called misc from miscellaneous. And this is going to load all the items we need to have on our home page. And this is going to be called get main page items. And the next one, the group is going to be called devs. And we are going to ask for an ID in the request, and this is going to show the developer information. So this is going to be called a devs controller. This is going to be misc controller. Now let's actually create our missing controllers. For that, we're going to go into our terminal. We're going to say art make controller, and the first one we're going to create is misc controller. The second one is going to be devs controller. Okay, that's fine. Now let's actually import our controllers. Okay, and let's start working on our miscellaneous controllers first. As you might remember, on our website, we had 3 different sections. We had latest reports, worst apps, and worst devs. That's what we want to get from the controller in here. So let's start with latest reports. And before we actually get all the reports, I also want to go into my report model and add the relationships in there. One of the relationships is for the store app, so we're going to say public function store app. It's going to be a has1 relationship, and let's open this in here and let's return the relationship. We're going to say has1. We're going to give it the class it has a relationship with, and we're going to say what ties them together. So it's ID with the app ID like this. Let's import the class, save it. Let's go back in here. Okay, and here I actually forgot to create the function for this, so let's do it function, and we're gonna call it exactly as in the API. It's gonna be get main page items. Okay, let's move this in here, and we also want to have a response here at the end. So we're just going to send back a response with the latest reports being this variable. And in this variable, let's say report. Let's do get for now. So we're going to get all the reports. Let's import the class. Now let's go to our Postman. Take a look how it looks in there. So I've created already some endpoints in here. And this one is going to be under misc and homepage items. And it's going to this URL. Let's send a request. Okay. Cool, so now we have all the requests possible in here. That's good, it works. Let's go back to our code. Now let's add some filters in here. So we want to get the latest reports. So for that, first of all, we want to say we want to get only the published reports because those have been moderated. Okay, then we want to order them, order by, and we want to say created at. And we want to say descending, so the first ones are going to be the latest ones. Okay, let's see what's next. And I think we also want to limit them, so let's limit to 6 items. Okay, let's add an arrow in here. Let's go take a look really fast. So we can see now that this one was created at 8:17. And this one was created at 8:26. So normally this one should be first and this one should be second. Let's see if that changed. Okay, 26. And these are published reports. Cool, that works. Let's go to our code in here. Now, in our reports, we are only getting information about the report, right? But we actually want to get more information about related models about that. So let's go in here. We want to say with in here, and we can do it like that. We can say store app. So this name has to match to this function name in here. So we're gonna say with store app. Okay, so now if we take a look in here, let's save this. Let's go back to Postman. Look here. Okay, so now we can see we have a new key in here called store app, where we're getting all the information about the app related to this report. But we don't really need all this information, so let's change this a bit. So in here we can actually say store app, but we can also give it like a callback. So we can say function in here, and this there's a query parameter that comes with this function. And using this query parameter, we can use it the same as with any Eloquent model. So in here we can actually say select, and we're going to tell it what fields we need. So we want developer, we want ID, developer ID. We also want the title in here. We also want the rating, and we want the icon for the app. Okay, let's close this in here. One thing to note, if we don't have an ID in here, then this will not actually work. So let's say right now it should work. If we go back here, you can see we're getting the store app and the fields we need. If we remove the ID from here, let's try again. You'll see that we're getting a null in here. That's because Laravel doesn't know how to tie these things up, right? We need to have an ID in this result in here, and it uses that ID to connect it against the app ID in the model. Now if we go back in the results in here, let's actually save this. Let's go back to the results in here. We're gonna take a look. So we do have developer ID in here, but we don't have any information about the developer, but we do need some information about the developer for that app. So for that, we're gonna have a new relationship, but that relationship is going to come from the store app model. So let's go to our store app model, and we're gonna create a relationship in here to the developer. So for that, we're gonna say public function developer. We're gonna say belongs to, because an app belongs to one single developer. And for that, we're gonna just return the relationship. We're gonna say return this belongs to developer class. And in this case, we don't need to give it the IDs as we did before, because in this case, it will automatically know how to tie these models together. Import class. Okay. Cool. Now in here, because we added that relationship, we can actually do a through relationship. So we can say store app developer, and then we also want to get only some of the columns, right? So we're gonna say query in here, and let's open this and say query select ID and the name. And again, it's the same thing. If we don't have the ID in here, then we'll just get null for this relationship in here. Cool, let's go back to our Postman. Let's see what happened. Okay, so we're getting the information about the report. So we got the comment, works offline and all that. We got the store app, and this is the information about the app, a title, rating, icon, and then we also get the developer on this, right? So for our main page, we only need the name really, and the ID, because the ID is going to be used to go to the developer information page. Okay, so everything seems to be working fine. Okay, now for the actual report, I also want to select only some of the fields. So I want to select the ID, the comment, the app ID, and created at. Let's add the arrow in here. Let's make sure this still works. Cool. So now we have exactly the information we need for our front-end page. Cool. Let's start and do the next variable, which is worst apps. And I'm actually going to add it into the response too. So we're going to say worst apps in here and add the variable. Cool. Let's work on this now. For the worst apps, we're going to start with this model, store app, and we're going to do basically the same thing as before. I already know which fields I want, so I want the ID, I want the title, I want the rating, developer ID, and the icon. Now in terms of relationships, I will get the developer, so I'm gonna say developer in here, and again we want a function with a query, and let's only get some of the fields we're interested in, and we're gonna say we want the ID and the name. Okay, now I also want to return the amount of reports an app has, so for that we need to actually add the relationship in here. So let's say we're gonna say public function reports, and we know that an app can have many reports, that's why we're gonna say has many in here, and we're going to return the relationship in here. We're gonna say has many report class, and we have to give them the IDs that tie them together. Okay, I have a typo in here, function. Now let's import all the classes. Okay, that should work. Let's go back in here. Now we don't really care about the actual reports or any information regarding to them. What we want is just the count of how many reports there are going to be. So we're gonna say with count, and again we're gonna have an array in here, and we're gonna say reports. Again, we don't want just all of the reports, we want only the ones that are actually published. So we're gonna say query where published is 1. Okay, let's close this in here for now. Let's import the class. And again, let's add some ordering here. We're going to say order by. We want them to be ordered by how many reports each app has. So we're going to say report counts, descending. Also, we want to only get the apps that actually have a report, right? So we're going to say having in here. We're going to say reports count is actually bigger than 0. And of course, at the end, we need to say get. Let's remove this. I do see I have a couple of issues in here. So first of all, this column name is icon, and in report counts, it should be count. This is a field generated by Laravel itself when you say with count in here. Let's save this. Let's go to Postman, see if this works. Okay, fine. So now we can see we have store app and everything. Let's collapse this. And for the worst apps, we have the app fields in here, and then we have the developer, and we do have the reports count. Now we can see this one has just one report and this one has the same. Cool, so it works now. Okay, our next variable is going to be worst devs. Let's copy this, add it in the response. We're gonna say worst devs and the variable name. Cool, so for the worst devs, I don't actually want to do another database query. We're going to build this array using the information we already have. So at the beginning, the worst devs is going to be an empty array. And the way we're going to build this is that we're going to have a for each loop, where we're going to loop through the worst apps as WA. And let's try to build all the information we need from the information we already have. Okay, so let's see. Now we want this array to have a collection of developers inside, right? So every time we go through an app, we are going to populate this array. So the first time it goes through, let's see, we're going to create an array of values in here. So what we want is we want to get the ID of the developer. We're going to say WA developer ID. Next one is going to be the name of the developer. We're going to get that again from WA, from the developer relationship, and we're going to get the name from there. The next one is going to be an apps count, because we want to show how many apps this developer has on our website. And for the first time it goes through this loop, it's always going to be 1. Okay, now we're going to also have reports count. And this one we're going to get from the WA reports count. Actually, let's rename this to count in here. Okay, let's add a semicolon. Cool. So every time this loops goes through, it's going to add a developer in here. But that's not really helpful, because right now if we go to our Postman, let's do this. And in this case, we don't really have repeating developers, so this information kind of makes sense. But if we have multiple developers that are the same, then this is going to just repeat itself. So this bit works fine for the first time the developer is going to be added to the array, but we also need to make sure that we don't add the same developer again. Every time we find the same developer, we want to just increase the apps count or the reports count. So for this, we're going to need to search through the existing array if an ID for the developer already exists. So let's create a variable which holds the array. For this, we're going to use array column. And we're going to get the ID from worst devs, and we want just the ID from here. Now we also want to find the index at which this developer ID already exists. So for that, we're going to use array search, and we're going to search for developer ID in the IDs variable. Okay, so what does this mean? This means that if we do have an index, so we're gonna say if this index is not false, then it means that we already have that developer. So what we want to do is just to update the needed information. So we're gonna say worst devs, we're gonna use the index in here, and we are going to increase the apps count, because every time this loop goes through, it just goes through one single app, so we can just say ++ in here. On top of this, we also want to update the reports count. So for that, we're going to say the same, index in here, and we're going to say reports count, and we're going to say plus equal the new reports count. Reports count. So this reports count is going to be the one coming from this single loop. Okay, so we're gonna have an if here, and we're gonna choose all this code. Let's just copy it right in here. Okay, so I think in this case it should work fine. Let's go back in here, see if this actually works. Cool. So yeah, it stays the same because we don't really have that many apps or reports at the moment. We're going to have to populate the data to actually see how it works. Okay, I do have also an issue in here. So this one needs to be the same as this one in here. Okay, I've actually went and added some new reports just randomly, and I've added them for different apps. And now we have also 4 developers, 5 apps, and we have 11 reports in here. Let's go back to Postman. Now we can actually go down and see that we have, so we do have 4 worst devs in here. They are different developers. So some of them have 2 apps against which there were some reports. So this one has 4 reports for 2 apps. This one has 3 reports for 1 app. This one again has 3 reports for 1 app. So you can see how it actually works when you have more relevant data right now. Now I also want to limit this worst apps to only 6 results. And this solution over here is has a little bit of a drawback, which means that we're going to get all the worst developers only for these 6 apps in here. Which means that if all the apps in this result are by the same developer, it means that in the worst developers we're going to have just 1 single developer. But I think I'm just going to leave it like this for now, because I want all the information on the page to be relevant to whatever is showing before the worst developers section. So let's go back to here. Let's take a look again. It still works fine. Okay, so now let's do something else. One thing I wanted to change since last time is that I want to change the way the score is getting saved. And basically I want to just take a substring because you saw sometimes the rating is something like 4.265. So we want to get just the first 3 letters, which are 4.2. And if it's 0, it's just going to be 0. And it should be better formatted this way. So we changed this in the scraper controller. Now we also want to change this into the reports controller. And in the reports controller, we want to go to the app in here and just change it into using the substring again. Also in this reports controller, I want to change the way we actually add a fake ad URL. So for the fake ad URL, we are only going to accept YouTube URLs. For this, we're going to add a string in here, which means we're going to embed the video on our page. And the request for the fake ad is going to be the code for the video. And for this, we also need to change the validation a bit. So in here, we're going to say fake ad, and we're going to change this to this. So it's still nullable, but if it's not null, we're going to expect a string of size 11. Which is the size of how many characters a video ID has on YouTube. Okay, let's save this. Scraper controller and all that. I want to add another relationship to our store app model, which is for the fake ads. We want to be able to get all the fake ads for an app. And also I want to go to the apps controller in here. And let's try to create a response for the page for the app information. This is basically kind of the same stuff that we've already done before. Let's import the classes in here. So this is the controller that's going to give us a response for this endpoint in here, get ID. And here we're looking for the ID that we're getting from here. So this has to match this one here. We're trying to find the app in our database. If it doesn't exist, we return an error message. And if it does exist, then we also load the developer relationship and the fake ads relationship. Then we also get the reports for this app, and we return it back as a response. Okay, let's take a look how this actually looks in Postman. So if we go in apps, show, and we're gonna get the app with ID 1. Okay, so we can see we have all the relevant information, also about the developer, and also a fake ad. Cool. Okay, now I want to switch to the developer model, and I want to add another relationship in here. This is for the apps, which means that a developer can have multiple apps. Let's save this and then go to our devs controller. And we're going to do something similar as for the apps. This is for showing the information about a developer. Let's import our classes in here. Okay, this looks fine. Let's actually go to Postman and see if this works. Okay, let's take a look at developer with ID 1. And we're getting all the information about the developer. about the apps it has, and how many reports have been made against this developer. Okay, that looks fine. Let's go back to our code. Okay, I think we're done right now with our backend. Let's actually switch to our front end. And let's see what we can do in here. Okay, first thing I want to do is I want to create some new types, and I'm just going to copy paste them in here. These are the new types. This is for app details. This is for dev details, and this is for the miscellaneous requests. Basically, these are used on the main page. Okay, we have these in here now. Next thing I want to add to our project is a package called View Toastification. It allows us to have toasts similar to these ones on our website. So let's add this now. We're gonna open a terminal. Because we're using View free, we're going to say a View Toastification at Nuxt. Let's install this now. Okay, so now we have this installed. Let's close this for now. There are some things we need to do before we can actually use this plugin. So we have to go to our Nuxt config file, and in here we need to add the View Toastification CSS. We add it like this, and then we also need to add a new key in here, just like this. We're going to transpile this package. Okay, now you should actually be able to use this package somewhere in your file, and usually would use it like this. So you would say toast, and you would give it the content, then you have a timeout and everything like this. Basically, you can take a look at these in the documentation. But the way I like to use it is that I like creating my own component for this, and then have my own color that is available everywhere in the app. So let's do it right now. For the toast, I have my own component called toast notification, and I'm just going to copy it from my other project. This component is actually getting an array of messages, just in case I have multiple messages I want to have in one list. So you can see that it's waiting for these messages to be an array, and it always has to be provided. Now I want to also add a new plugin in here, which is going to be called Toast Mixin. This is another one that I'm using in all my other projects. So you can see here what we are going to provide globally to our application is this function over here, this method called show toast, where we can actually give it the messages that come as an array. We're going to give it a type, either success, error, or warning, and depending on that we're going to change the colors of the toast, and then we're also going to give it a time. This is going to be in milliseconds, and the default is 3 seconds. And then see again that we are calling this toast from the toastification plugin. Okay, we're just customizing it a bit. That's all that this is doing. Okay, now we can close our toast mixin, and on top of all of this, I also want to add some more styling. So for this, we're going to go to our assets, CSS, main CSS. And I'm going to add some new styles that have to do only with our toasts. So you can see this is a success color, error color, warning color, and then we have a little bit of an animation. The way I'm just making this animation a little bit faster because the default animation speed, I don't really like it that much. Okay, let's close these things. Now let's actually test out our new toast. If we go to, let's say, our index page in here, and let's just really quickly add test me here. Let's say on click, we're gonna do a test, and let's just add a script in here really fast. Setup lang TypeScript. Let's close this. Const test equals. Okay, we've just imported this show toast from use Nuxt app, and this line will actually show the toast on the page. So let's see how it actually looks on our page. If we just refresh this and click on test me over here, you can see that we see all the toast messages in here. Cool, that looks fine. Let's just delete everything from now. Cool, save this and let's go back to our code. Okay, the next thing I want to do is that I might go to the helpers in here, and I've already prepared 3 more services. And these are the services. This is the app service. This is for getting the information about a single app from the API. Dev service is the same for a developer. And MISC service is the same, but it's for the main page, if you remember what we did in the API. Okay, now let's go tackle our main page. For this, we're going to add a script in here to load all our needed data. On page load. Okay, you can see that in here we're calling this homepage items, which is going to go to misc/home. It's going to give us all the data back, and we're going to use that data to add it to our variables, latest reports, worst apps, and worst devs. You can also see another thing in here called handle request error. This is something that we're going to add right now. Let's save this for now. This handle request is coming from a helper, which we're going to call utils mixin. These are all the utilities I'm going to use in this project. And one of them is handle request error. Basically what it does is that in case we are receiving a error with error message, you may have noticed that in the API, whenever we have a custom error message, I'm calling it error_message. Otherwise, it's going to tackle an error bag from Laravel. So Laravel also sends error messages, for example, for the validation, and it has a certain format. So that's what this request does here. And it also creates a toast in case it's an error with the relevant messages. Cool, let's close this for now. We also have a couple more functions in here, which is show app and show dev. We are going to use this to go to the information pages about an app or a developer. You'll also notice we have a loading variable in here, which means we want to show a loading page before we have all the data. So we're going to use this, and let's add it here on top. It's going to be very simple. We're just going to say this in here. So if it's loading, we're going to show a loading component. And if it's not, we're going to show the actual page. Let's also create this loading component right now. This one is also very simple. We're going to just paste it in here. Let's go for it really fast. You can see the only thing it does is that it takes 80% of the vertical height of the whole screen, and it's taking the full width, and it's just going to show a spinning circle in the middle of the screen. Now let's take a look a little bit at our web page over here. We have these app tiles in here. I want to change them a little bit because for latest reports, we're going to show some information. And when it comes to the worst apps, we're going to show a little bit of a different information. So I already have that, that done. And let's just paste this on top and let's take a look through it. The couple of things I've changed in here is that the review date, and some of the other stuff in here is now nullable because we won't need it for the worst apps tiles. And then we also have these conditionals in here. So in case they exist, we show them. In case they don't exist, we do not show them. Okay, so that has changed. Now, when it comes to dev tiles, so these last ones over here, we don't really have an icon per se to show for dev, so we are only going to show their name and you'll be able to click on them. So for that, I'm going to actually create a new component. Let's just paste this one in here too. Let's take a look at it. So we're going to just show a dev name and then how many reports they have and how many apps they have on our website. Cool. Now let's actually use those tiles in here. I'm going to just copy paste this entire page because I already have it modified. And you can see in here for the app tile, we are going to go through the latest reports. We are going to insert all the needed information. We are also using date functions to format our date into a human readable form. Then we are sending this store app ID to the page show app. The same goes for the app tile. We have all the needed information here. You can see it's a little bit different. So title, rating, dev name, total reports. We don't have the review and review date in here. Now when it comes to the dev tile, it's kind of the same. We have dev name, total apps, and total reports. Now let's also create the new pages for these routes. So let's go to our pages. Okay, let's create a new folder in here, which is going to have a square bracket ID. And then inside we're going to create a file called index.view. And we're going to do the same for the developers. We're going to create a folder with square brackets ID. And then a file called index.view. What this means is that if you have a URL going to developers/1, it will open this page, but it will also have access to the ID, whatever this value is in there. Okay, let's leave this for now. Actually, let's also delete this file over here. We don't really need it. Let's actually add some default data in here. Otherwise, I think our website won't load. So let's say in here app ID. And then for the developers, let's do the same. Let's actually copy it. And we're gonna say dev ID in here. Let's add a line at the end. So if we go to our page right now, okay, so we actually get all the data in here at the moment. If we make it full screen, we have the latest reports, and you can already see we have different apps in here. Then we have the worst apps, and then we have the worst devs. Okay, if we go to one of these, you can see it goes to the dev ID. This one goes to the app ID. Cool. Okay, that looks fine to me. Let's make this full screen again. Okay, let's build our developer page right now. If we go in here, I'm just gonna copy paste this. And it has the same structure as all the other pages really. So if something is loading, we're gonna show this loading component. Then we're gonna have a developer information. This is gonna be our header. Developer details is going to be our subheader. Then we're using our custom input component to show some of the other details like name, website, email, the store URL. Then we have the reported apps, so the apps that have reports on our website. And you can see here that on the onMounted function, we are actually getting these details from the API. And if everything goes fine, we populate this variable, and if something goes wrong, we show the error and then navigate to the main page. Okay, one last thing is that you can see that we're getting this ID from root params ID. So whatever is in here is going to be in here. And then we're using it to get the information about the developer. Let's do a reload in here just to fix all those issues. Cool. Now, if we try and go to our actual page, let's go in here, click on one of these developers. And you can see we can see all the details about the developer and reported apps in here. Cool, this looks fine. Let's go back. Let's close this, and now let's go to our app index page. I'll copy all the code in here. Let's take a look through it really fast. It's basically the same. We have the loading bit, then we have the header for the app information. We have the icon in here, store URL, everything else. All the ratings. Again, we are using the custom input component to show some of the other data bits. Then for the fake ads, what we're doing is that we're adding an iframe. I got this code directly from when you're trying to share a YouTube video, you will get this iframe option in there. And you can see it's just a loop that goes through all these fake ads. And we're giving it a 100% width, and we're giving it a height of 200, which seems to be looking nice on all the screens. Then for the working offline, the work offline is actually per report. So one report can say that the app was working offline for them. Another report could say that it doesn't work for them. So I just decided to make this into a percentage where we're getting total working, total not working. Then we do a how many percentage out of 100%. Decided to say that it actually works offline for them. Then we have this font awesome icons, which we need to actually add right now. Let's go in here. We need circle check and circle X mark. We're gonna go in here. I'm gonna say circle check. And I think it's solid. Circle check solid, they're both solid. So circle X mark. Circle X mark, also from the solid pack. We're gonna add it in here. Cool, and then we also format the date using also on mounted, we're using the same exact way of getting the information. If something goes wrong, we're gonna handle that request error and go back to the main page. This should basically happen whenever you go to this page, but that ID for the app doesn't actually exist. So that's why we want to redirect the user to the main page. Now let's take a look how this looks. If we go in here, let's press on 1. So you can see here we have the actual link to the Play Store page. Then we have the link to the Play Store developer page. Here we can see the rating. Then we don't really have any fake ads for this one. Let's actually go and see if we have one with fake ads. Okay, so if we have fake ads, it looks like this. Then free reports said that it doesn't work offline, and this is what they said about the actual app. Cool, I think it looks really good right now. You can also see that we have a reported here, which means it's going to go to the reports new page. First of all, we'll need to log in for this. But when we want to reuse the same new report page as we were using before, but we want to be sending app ID to that reports page so that you are able to report only on that app instead of actually searching for that app first. Cool, so let's do that now. Okay, let's go handle this report button, and we know that it's in our report section in here. I made already some changes, so let's take a look for them. Now it actually has a list of props that it can receive. One of them is App Store ID. So if it doesn't have an App Store ID, we're going to show this text over here where it says found an app or a game, and then report it, because we don't really want to have it in there. We just want to have the button. And then for the link, we're going to actually have this link in here. So it's a computed property. So if we do have an App Store ID, then we're going to append this ID equals the store ID. Otherwise, it's going to be an empty string. And we're going to send the user to that URL. Then we also have the text in here in case we want to actually change the text. So instead of saying reported here, we can actually say something else. Okay, let's close this right now. Okay, so now let's go to our reports new page, and I'm just going to copy paste a modified page for this. Cool, so what happened in here? On mounted, we are actually looking if we do have an ID given to us from the app information page. And if we do have one, we want to actually handle the search, and we want to disable the search field. So this show search is going to control if we show the search section or we don't. Then it's just the same as always. If it's loading, then show a loading section over there. Otherwise, show all the information as before. The other thing we added in here is we added these handle request errors. That's all. So let's try and go to the actual page and see how it looks. Okay, first of all, let's actually sign in. Okay, let's go to the main page. Let's go to one of these apps. Let's click on report this app. And you can see that is the same page as before, reports new. It's just that we have an ID over here for the app. And now we don't have that search field anymore. You'll also notice that we've changed this just a bit. So now it says fake ad and it says YouTube ID. And in here we give a placeholder of just random 11 characters. I'll go to the same page from here without the ID. You'll see that we still have this search field in here. One other thing I want to add is that if we go to the search section, I want to add in here quality of life improvement. Basically, if we press enter, it will start searching, so you don't always have to click on that on this button over here. If we just press enter, it will work just fine. Okay, cool. Let's see what else we can do in here. Okay, so we got everything working right now. The only thing remaining is that I want to add all these handle request errors and the loading component in all the missing pages. So let's go in here. I'm going to add a show toast when you successfully log out, and we have a request error in case something went wrong. The next page, I want to go to the default layout, so we're gonna go in here, and we've added this loading component in here. Next, we want to go to our middleware, off TS, and we're gonna show a toast in here if something went wrong or we need to sign in first. And the last one, let's open off check global and do the same. So we're gonna add the handle request in here and show toast on successful login. Okay, let's close all the pages right now and let's go really fast through the website. So, okay, we have the report button in here. Let's search for an app and we're gonna press enter. Cool, we have it in here. This is my comment, 1, 2, 3. Okay, let me just find, we're gonna say that this works offline. Let me just find a video ID first. Okay, video ID goes here, submit. We're gonna get a toast. Thank you, your report is in review. Now let's go through these apps first. So we have all the elements in there. We have the video. We have the reports in here. So we've just added a report right now. Let's actually publish it. So if we refresh this, if we publish it and we save it, let's go back to our website. And if we refresh this, you can see that this is the latest comment we've just added. Again, everything looks fine in here. We go back, and this is our worst apps. Again, it's the same kind of layout. Now let's go to one of our worst developers. Go in here, we have the details, we have the reported apps. And we can also go into an app and see the app information right from this page. Okay, that works fine. Let's log out now. We're getting a logout successfully. Now, if we want to report it, this functionality is available only to logged in users. So let's click on it. And you can see we're getting an error toast, which says, please sign in first. Cool. So this one looks really nice. And I think we're gonna stop here for today, and I'll see you in the next one.